Shalom. Baruch Haba, Coram Lee Anthony. Hello and welcome. They call me Anthony. I greet you in the great and awesome name of Yahuwah Elohim. Thank you so much for joining us here for our weekly Towrah teaching on the coming of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. To the Kodeshim out there, Towrah Rabbah, thank you so much for your comments and for your support. Join with us now as we look to the word of Yahuwah and sing another song of Mosheh. Devarim chapter 32, verse 10 will line up with the witness over in Yochanan, chapter 18, verse 12. He found him in a desert land and in the wasteland, a howling wilderness. Then the detachment of troops. Then the detachment of troops. He here, as we know from last week, is Yahuwah. So when he found him, then things began to happen. He found him. Matzah, H4672, means to find, secure, and acquire. To get a thing sought. To meet or encounter. To find a condition. He found him in a certain condition. As we pick up from last week, Yahushua is preparing to drink the cup of his inheritance. As it was written, shall I not drink the cup which my Ab has given me? This is the cup of Yaakov. So he is surrendering to the authorities here for the survey, preparing to fight the greatest adversary never seen, and overseeing the forces of evil, known as the devil and Satan. And he's going to be used by Yahuwah to demonstrate the power of Yahuwah to overcome the greatest enemy of all time, which is death and the grave. It's undefeated, a very real place where we are all headed. What begins to happen here has an audience in the invisible realm that cannot be numbered, and they are all tuned in to see how Yahuwah is going to pull this off. He is tuned in now, having found him, and everything is at stake, because the wrath of Yahuwah will be much greater than anything Satan or death can be compared to. This is what everyone's tuned in to see, and Yahushua was sent to experience all of this for us who believe, so that we can have Chayim Olam, everlasting life. His taught ones, so who he did it for, you have to be taught about Yahushua the Naziyr because of the great lie that was taught from the evil one, the father of lies. So now he begins that part of his journey via a sacrifice. So he gives himself up to Yahuwah as he starts to drink this cup, and Yahuwah finds him in some bad conditions. He found him in a desert land and in a wasteland and a howling wilderness. All of this adds up to a bad place, and the conditions are not favorable. It is likened to a desert land. Midbar, H4057, is a wilderness. The root of it is debar. It is used in the sense of driving in order to lead away. It means to speak with one another. This is what the troops began to do as they led him away. Also, a wasteland, H8414, Tohu, is among other things a wasteland and wilderness of solitary places. This is where they are taking him, to solitary places. in order to do injustice. And a howling wilderness. Yeshimon is here. H3452 is a desolate place, deserted of people in a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. It's emotional. This is where he will ultimately wind up, in an emotional state of gloom and depression. All of this can be seen in the people who were going to take him there. It was the detachment of troops. The word used there for detachment of troops is G4686. It is Spara. And it is a military cohort, a band or company of soldiers. Also, anything rolled into a circle or a ball, anything wound up, rolled up, or folded together. So everything in the line of Devarim, and these people too. They spoke to him as they led him away to those solitary places. Bad conditions about to get worse. He encircled him and the captain. He encircled him. Sabab, H5437, means to march around and enclose, to surround. It also means to turn oneself around and be turned over to. Sababa. It's cool. This word speaks to what they did to lead him away and his willingness to go. Sababa. It's cool. He already told Petrus to put his sword away. Sababa. It's cool. In other words, he submitted to their will. So he gives himself up to the one in charge, seen in Yochanan as the captain, the military commander. He, Yahuwah, encircled him. This is Yahushua. Again, encircled means to turn oneself around and be turned over. To be turned over to. So Yahushua turned around and was turned over to the captain. The word for encircled is describing the apprehension. Yahushua is submitting to the will of Yahuwah according to this song by Mosheh. Yahuwah is he. Sababa. So everything's cool. He instructed him and the officers of the Utah. He instructed him. So the word of Yahuwah comes into play here. Being the word for instructed means to understand, to know with the mind, to be discerning, intelligent, and discreet, to have understanding. These are the officers of the Utah. They were discreetly lurking there because they were representing the ones behind the scheme in the first place, the Kohen Haggadah. The word for officers is G5257, Huparetus. It means servant, a subordinate, anyone who aids another in any work. This is used of the attendants of a king and of the attendants of a synagogue as a preacher of the good news. So again, these are spiritual authorities mixed in with the king's people. They were there discreetly. The word of Yahuwah instructs Yahushua, and the same word instructed the Utah. It was the Torah. Although they did not fully understand it, it was in the land, and so were they. So the Utah are here, G2453, Udius. They are a sect that came around before the people we know as Jews were brought in to play the role of the Yahudim, the tribe of Yehuda. The root of Udius is from G2448, another Greek word, and that word is of Hebrew origin. So they tried to cover it up. G2448 means he shall be praised, and it takes you to H3063, which is Yehuda, meaning praise given to the name of Elohim. This is Yahuwah, the one who has begun to oversee everything going down now. That is who he is over in Devarim, or up in Devarim. This is his hand, his word, and the power and strength it has to instruct one's ways. The ones identified in these verses are the Gentiles being used to carry it out. Only they don't realize it. Yahuwah knows what's in their heart because they don't retain anything in the Hebrew. This is disrespect for his inspired words, which is why this word Utah is used here. And here lately, the word Jew. It is the alternative of H3063, found in the root word etymology box. H3194 is Utah, the alternative. It means to stretch out, to turn, pervert, bend, to extend, and thrust away. All of that. From Yehuda to Utah is perverted. And to try to say a Jew and Yehuda is somehow the same is even more of a stretch. Stretched out, perverted, and bent. Nevertheless, it is the Hebrew teaching that regulates the spiritual climate there. This is the instructions Mosheh is singing about. He instructed him. The people have changed, but the instructions of the Torah have not passed away, even though they are not followed as they should be. This song by Mosheh has to be fulfilled by one of the people. And that is why he kept him as the apple of his eye. So they arrested Yahushua and bound him. That's who him is, Yahushua. So again, according to the definition for these words, Yahuwah is watching this closely for his name's sake. He is focused on Yahushua, so he is bound according to the definition put under the obligation of the Torah for duty. So to recap, Yahuwah found Yahushua in a bad spot with the detachment of troops. Upon his surrender, he encircled him and the captain. He instructed him and the officers of the Utah, and he kept him as the apple of his eye. Arrested Yahushua and bound him. Devarim chapter 32, verse 11 will be followed by the witness over in Yochanan chapter 18, verse 13. So all of the arrest is likened to an eagle here, as an eagle stirs up its nest and hovers over its young. And they led him away to Hanayah first. As an eagle stirs up its nest, as the Hebrew word there is ki. That's what's used here. So what unfolds here in the story is likened to an unclean bird stirring up another bird's nest. It's robbery going on here. An eagle, H5404, is from an unused root meaning to lacerate, meaning to tear or make deep cuts in the flesh or skin. So something's grabbed here. It also means to criticize forcefully and severely. This is accusation. Okay? The eagle has invaded the nest of another bird, a clean bird, if you will, and has now grabbed one of its young. This is now what is being stirred up, according to the Song of Mosheh. The word for stirred here is H5782, and it means to arouse oneself, to awaken and incite. So this is violent behavior. It is from a root identifying the idea of opening the eyes. So the young bird is grabbed by the eagle violently. So he submitted and now they're taking advantage of it. Mosheh says the eagle stirs up its young. Okay, this is mistreatment as the eagle has invaded the nest here. The nest is where the young are nourished, and the nourishment is seen down below in Yochanan. It is the origin of the young bird, or the type of bird it is. This is seen in Yochanan as they led him, and who they led him to first. It was Hanayah. Hanayah. The word there initially was G452, Ananias, which means to be humble in the Greek. Before I cleaned it up on and put it on the Mitzbeach, it was of Hebrew origin and takes you to H2608. This is Hanayah. Okay? This is what it was supposed to be before they changed it. It appears the eagle has flown here as well. Hanayah means favored of Yahuwah, the one watching all of this go down closely. Because the young in the verse Mosheh is singing about is seen as him over in Yochanan. This is Yahushua the Naziyr. He is the young in the nest being grabbed. The nest is the Torah. It is where the Hebrew understanding has its origins. The Hebrew understanding is where this unclean bird is now hovering over. It's young. It's hovering over the Hebrew young. This bird is here to rob the nest. Yahushua is led here first to show origin or the type of bird that was in the nest. The word for led, G520, apago, means to lead away, especially of those who are led off to trial, prison, or in punishment. This is where he's headed. The root of apago, apo, is also used of separation, of a part from the whole where the wholesome part is taken. So this is witnessing to the root. Also a separation of origin. So there it is. This too will befall him as the unclean bird will separate Yahushua from his nest of origin. Again seen here as the first place he is taken to. If you notice, or as I have mentioned, Hanayah is a person of Hebrew origin. It's first place. Yahushua is one of its young. The eagle is hovering over them. It is hovering, meaning to grow soft and relax over its young in the nest. So he's hovering over this thing to capture it. The word for young here is H1469. Gozal. It is from a root meaning to plunder, tear off, and rob. Take away by force. So this identifies robbery of its young by the unclean bird, the eagle. Spreading out its wings, taking them up. For he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas. Spreading out its wings. The word for wings here is paras, H6566. Word, not for wings, was for spreading. For spreading. Paras. Means to stretch out. To stretch and to break in pieces. To spread over. So the unclean bird is seen spreading out its wings here. Now this word for wings is H3671. Kanaf. The word identifies the extremity of the wings, the borders. The verb means to put or thrust in or into a corner, to be hidden from view. Cornered, to be thrust aside. So this is a takeover and a cover-up by the unclean bird. He's cornered it and he's trying to capture it. Okay, stretching out his wings to cover it entirely, hold it down. The takeover of origin is seen down in Yochanan. Hananiah was the father-in-law, a father in the Torah to Caiaphas. Okay, who is of Aramaic origin. This is the eagle, the unclean bird, the ones behind the cover-up and takeover. Mosheh is saying in the lyrics, taking them up. This is both Yahushua in the previous line of survey, okay, and the one, well, Yahushua was the one they grabbed, and Hananiah. That's who them is for this survey. Both of them. So when the Aramaics finished with this raid, none of the true witness will be identified in the Abrit. It's a takeover of historical proportions. And this we know to be true, because Mosheh sings about this eagle taking them up, removing their names, their origin. So much so, in fact, that I had to put them back down for the edut to help you see the lyrics and the song. It is both prophetic and accurate. Also, the taking them up part coincides with the meaning of Caiaphas. It means comely. He was coming along to take them up. The word for take, H3947, means to lay hold of and seize. To acquire. Very important word there. They want it for them own, for their own. So it also means to snatch and take away, to marry, to capture and carry off. You know, they wanted this for themselves. We already looked at the fact that Hananiah was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, and a foreigner was not supposed to rule in this position of Kohen Hagadol. That in itself is a great sin on the people, regardless of who is fathering him. Yahuwah Elohim said, "You shall surely set a king over you whom Yahuwah your Elohim chooses. One from among your brethren you shall set as king over you. He set a foreigner over him. And the word says you may not set a foreigner over you who is not your brother. So this is not good, coming out of the Aramaic here. Carrying them on its wings. Who was Cohen Hagadol that year. So Hanayah was the ticket for Caiaphas to be Cohen Hagadol that year because of marriage. He was the one carrying them, who is Yahushua the Naziyr and Hanayah, the Hebrew father in the Torah to Caiaphas. He apparently, because of the definitions, co-signed for Caiaphas to be Cohen Hagadol that year. That's who was carrying them. Caiaphas, the unclean bird, the eagle, the one of Aramaic origin. He was carrying them on its wings. This is the wings of the clean bird in the nest of Hebrew origin. In other words, this is the capture of one bird by another. He got him by the wings. So there's no escape. This is Yahushua. His hands are behind his back. The word for wings here, H84, is abra. Abra is a wing, however, it is metaphorically used of Elohim. So this is a different wing from the one above. This wing is of Elohim. Seen over in Yochanan as the Cohen Hagadol, the highest office in the land. It is of Hebrew origin and spoken of by Yahuwah Elohim when it was given to the one who was to minister before Yahuwah Elohim for B'nai Yisrael. The fact that an Aramaic is sitting in that seat is forbidden in the Torah. So the picture here is an eagle robbing a bird's nest by snatching one of the young ones up by the wings and flying off with it. The fact that it cleverly grabs the wings of the bird to carry it off, and he being Cohen Hagadol that year, has the same effect in both cases. It demonstrates power over it and renders the young bird helpless. So they are at the mercy of foreigners. Someone else is in control. A foreigner sitting in the highest office in the land of Yisrael. Not a good look. This is the analogy of why this part in Yochanan had happened. As you can see, Mosheh was singing about this event all along. And where is this in any doctrine that you know? The world does not know any of what is revealed here in the Torah as it relates to the Torah. Devarim chapter 32 verse 12 will line up with Yochanan chapter 18 verse 14. So Yahuwah alone led him. Now it was Caiaphas. So Yahuwah alone led him. Now it was Caiaphas. That's who him is that Yahuwah is now leading. Also, as Caiaphas was seen as the eagle in the last analogy that led away Kanayah and specifically Yahushua, so now it was Caiaphas' turn to be led away. So Yahuwah alone led him. Necha, the word for led there means to guide, to lead and guide him so that he comes along in order to fulfill this prophecy. After all, that's what Caiaphas' name means. It means comely. Yahuwah does not do anything extraordinary in leading him. As we will see, just using his word brings you in line with his will. It causes you to be led. So one can be evil and be led, or good and be led. Here these people are evil and wicked, nevertheless still being led, albeit to destruction, because Yahuwah is judging their heart. This is what must happen in order to get Yahushua to the position of promise as Kohen Hagadol in the Shemayim where Yahuwah dwells. And he is going to use the office of Kohen Hagadol, the thing that he created. He's going to use that to do it in order to give a possession to the Hebrew people as everlasting. This is the promise to Abraham. Again, Yahuwah is not going to allow his people to have a hand in the destruction of everlasting life that he promised them. And so a Kohen Hagadol has to execute all of the authority of that position here on the earth for this to proceed and happen where Yahuwah dwells, where he dwells in the audience of myriads of Malachim. Once he gets there, ball game, can't be undone or outmatched, because in the end everyone will see him, even those who will eventually pierce him. This is what the unseen spiritual forces are watching for in the invisible realm, to see how Yahuwah makes this happen. This is all playing out according to Yahuwah's word. So Yahuwah is just watching. And there was no foreign owl with him who advised the Utah that it was expedient that one man should die for the people. And there was no foreign owl with him who advised the Utah that it was expedient that one man should die for the people. As we look at this survey on the line, this word for foreign here, H5236, nekar, means alien and foreignness, that which is foreign. The verb means to recognize and acknowledge something formerly known and respected by discerning it. This is seen in the advice that he gave to the Utah, who were foreigners. They didn't understand the scriptures any more than the perpetrators of today know them. Mosheh sings the song about Yahuwah alone leading him, Caiaphas. There was no foreign owl with him. H410 is a mighty one, something that has strength and power over you. Caiaphas, that is who advised the Utah that it was expedient that one man should die for the people, because they didn't know, being foreigners themselves. Caiaphas is who? Down in Yochanan. He in his advice is seen as a mighty one. He had strength and power to influence the people. He was Kohen Hagadol. He influenced the people because of where he got the idea, the advice he gave. It was based on what Yahuwah Elohim had already done in former times to deliver the people of Israel. Regardless of how foreigners wrongly identified him in the scripture back in the day, he was and still is the Elohim of Israel. And the stories and scriptures are uniquely his. So it does not matter how many times they changed his name. They are following the program of his written word. Okay? Who can forget the stories of Shimshon and Korah and Aharon? Just a few instances where one man died for the people. The definition for foreign means alien. So nothing alien or foreign is driving the decisions that Caiaphas is making. The verb for nachar means to recognize as formally known. Again, what was written in the Torah and the Nebaim is what is formally known. For this scripture to be fulfilled, there was no foreign understanding with him based on what he said. He was just drawing inspiration from the scriptures. Yahuwah was not actively involved in this plot. However, his word was the determining factor. Amen. How powerful is the word of Yahuwah? Many don't know that his word is the driving force behind the decisions of world leaders even today, and in the decisions of everyday people who read it or hear about it, for whatever the reason may be. But this is done so that no one is without an excuse come judgment time, so as to say, I didn't know. Yes, you did. You know something. The problem is many just don't care, and this is the judgment. They didn't care enough to find out about what his word is really saying. And the reason is there are so many false prophets out there. Not many talking about Adonai Yahushua the Naziyr. But you can change that starting with your prayers. Change the name and change the game. Then he will lead you. This we know to be true. Shabbat Shalom. Shahayalak Shabuatov. Have a good week.